Nice,
Three,
Autumn.
2, 1. What is up, everybody? And welcome back to Zachary Reality. It is Zachary Reality. We are back here on a Monday chatting with a Bachelor Nation fave. We have Davia here live in New York City. Hey, Davia.
Hi, Zach. Nice to see you again.
Oh, yeah, we have met one time in Charleston, which is where my cousins live. And you used to live there.
I used to live in Charleston. You were there for a night. I met you through my best friend, Kat Velasco, and Sally Carson.
Yeah.
And we had a night. We had a great time together.
Yeah, you met all the cousins.
I met all of the cousins. And
Kylee
then I met
was
them again.
graduating. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
the best.
And I think you were their waitress once.
I was, yeah. That was in between Paradise and me moving to New York, which is really funny.
Yeah. And I love that since I was there, I got some Charleston, culture. I got some Charleston tea. And I'm so shook that Sally is joining Southern Charm, or is she joining Southern Hospitality?
I think and I just know this through rumor mill. I don't know if it's out yet or not.
No, it is. It's out.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I think she's going to be on Southern Charm. So yeah. And also, just from hearing all the rumors in Charleston, that is going to be an interesting season.
Oh my God. Listen, being there for just a few days, I think I saw Sally once or twice. I'm like, she might not have done good on The Bachelor, but she's going to kill it on Southern Charm.
Yeah.
It's interesting that she's going to be on Southern Charm, though, because I know she, had a fling with Joe, and this was already in the news from Southern Hospitality. So it's like different shows. So a little confused.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
nice to
and
see.
Also Charleston's so small. You date a lot of the same people, so it's good.
Yeah. Do you watch Bravo shows?
I don't. The only other reality television show I watch is RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh, okay. Do you have like a favorite queen?
Yes, I am obsessed with Anitra. I want her to teach me how to duck walk. I also would kill to see any of the Brooklyn queens while I'm here in New York. Literally, but Anitra is my favorite by far.
So do you love how like the drag queens are going on different shows now, like Traders and like all these other crossover shows? They're bringing more drag queens on. It's amazing.
Of course, yeah. And there's so much more visibility. And like the thing that I love about drag queens is not only they're just a phenomenal form of entertainment and art, but also they're really passionate people who bring a lot of light into this world and like spread positivity and create cultural change. And so I think having representation on that community, especially with everything going around in the air with politics and drag queens being banned, I think it's important to show more visibility on this queen. So yeah, I think Peppermint was on Traders. She's also
and
a phenomenal trans queen as well. So yeah, I'm so happy for them.
Yeah, I was going to say Shangela was on Dancing with the Stars, and it was amazing to see her dance last season with Gleb, and they were just like such a hot couple. But you live in New York City, right? So you've been there the past few months. I love to see that you're an ally. So thank you for supporting. What has it been like the last few months? I did interview your roommate Greer a couple of months ago. So how did you guys kind of end up living together?
Oh my goodness. So living in New York City has been a whirlwind, first and foremost. I think I was a little bit depressed because I live in the Lower East Side. And if you know the Lower East Side, it's known for going out. But also in the daytime, it's really grungy. And so moving from Charleston, South Carolina, which is quaint, quintessential coastal living, to like grungy New York was quite the adjustment. And I also moved at the beginning of fall and winter. So it took me a couple months to start really loving it. But I got connected because after the show back in January, I have always wanted to move to New York City. And Greer was living in Houston at the time. She used to live in New York, and she was talking about moving back to the city. And so we were actually not friends at all during filming. And somehow we bonded over moving back to the city, just kind of looked at each other and said, we're going to be roommates. And then through that, just like grew a beautiful friendship, and now live together here in our tiny shoebox apartment.
I know. New York is the funnest city in the world. And I'm going to move there. But I want to make sure I'm like rich, so that I can have real space, because in LA, it's a lot cheaper. So I can't like go downsize,
You're going to have to, but I understand exactly what you're saying. I was on a FaceTime with Kylee and Jess, and we did like apartment tours, and I was showing them my apartment, and then I was looking at their apartment in San Diego, and I was like, that would be so nice to have all of that closet space.
Yeah, you got to know what you want to prioritize. I mean, it's also so much fun to live in the city and just be able to go out everywhere. So, like, where are some of your favorite spots? Do you go to a lot of events? Like, what is kind of like your
Yeah.
social scene like in New York?
I'm really lucky because I do get to go to a lot of events here. Whether it's nighttime events, but I go a lot of health and wellness events. Also, I'm
Mm.
really bad. My friends take me everywhere, and I never know where I am. Never.
Oh,
But I've really enjoyed going to a lot of the art galleries here. My favorite thing to do is to go to bookstores and art galleries on the weekends. So if I were to give two recommendations to all my book lovers, I think it's called Bibliotech. I don't know exactly how to spell it, but it's a
mhm.
new coffee and wine bar that's also inside of a bookstore in Soho. Absolutely love that place. I go and work there a lot on Fridays. And then my second favorite is in East Village, and it's called the Book Club, which is also a coffee and wine bar inside of a bookstore.
Ooh.
So if you are in New York on a Saturday, I'm probably in one of those two places after a hot yoga class reading
Yeah. Are you
by
trying to shoot your
myself.
shot for all the straight men who listen to this podcast?
Yeah. No, if I'm single for much longer, you will find me in the West Village sitting down at, like, on an outside table by myself with a really cute outfit and Aperol spritz and like a beaten up copy of Anna Karenina, just like trying to get the literary men to walk my way and say, do you want to someone to join you?
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for the Rex. I'm sure some people will really appreciate that. Seems like you know a little bit of the city, but do you know directions? Like, are you riding the subway? Like, how are we really with like all that?
The beginning was a little rough. I am riding the subway. I'm getting better at my geography. Every once in a while, I will get on the train and think I'm going to work, and I end up in Brooklyn, which is not where I work.
Yeah,
That actually happened last week,
it
and I
happens.
was late to an event,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
It's the worst when you're like on the train and you're going the wrong way, but like you have a suitcase because you're like traveling and then you're like, fuck my life. You know, that's happened to me a few times.
Yeah, that has not happened to me, and I hope to God it doesn't. But I've gotten really good at taking the subway instead of taking an Uber to the airport,
Oh,
because sometimes Ubers to the airport in New York will be like $100. It's
yeah.
insane.
They are so expensive. But if you leave at a good time, but like for me, when I come to the city, I couch surf like from like my brother to some of my best friends.
Yeah.
So last time I literally brought a carry-on and I'm like wearing the same thing because the big suitcase, it's really hard to kind of get around.
Yeah,
But
absolutely not. Everything
yeah,
goes to carry on now.
for sure. So did you always live in Charleston? Is that where you grew up?
I grew up, nope, I moved to Charleston after college, and I graduated during the pandemic. Didn't never thought that I was going to stay in South Carolina. Also never thought I would ever live in Charleston. But I grew up 3 hours north in a small town called Spartanburg, and
Hmm.
actually in an even smaller town called Roebuck, South Carolina.
Whoa.
So yeah, I'm from the suburbs of upstate South Carolina.
Yeah. And what made you decide to move to Charleston?
Like I said, I graduated during the pandemic. At that point, I was in a 5-year relationship, and
Mm.
my ex, or my boyfriend at the time, had a job in Charleston, so I moved for him. But even after that relationship ended, I fell so in love with the city. I feel like Charleston really does have a really special place in my heart, and every time I go back, I try and visit as much as I can and take it in. The ocean, the
Mm.
food, the people, the bridge, everything. I'm obsessed with Charleston.
I love Charleston. It's so underrated, so maybe we
It
should
is.
keep it that way. But like I said, I
Yeah.
visited for the first time last year because my cousins grew up in Charlotte, and Kelly, my cousin, she moved to Charleston, and that's kind of like the best city I feel like in the
Yeah.
Carolinas. I've been to a few of them, and I really just like love Charleston so much. It's
Yeah.
so dope.
Oh my gosh, I know. And I met Serena P at an event last week, and we were chit chatting about Charleston, and I was going to give her all of my recs because that's where Joe and Serena got married. And then
Hmm.
they haven't really spent much time there. So I was like, I will send you all of my favorite places.
You know who was supposed to spend time in Charleston?
I
Gary
know.
and Teresa.
Yeah, crazy.
Are we keeping up with all Bachelor Nation? Like, are you all up to speed? Did you watch Joey's season?
I watched bits and pieces of Joey's season. I know all the tea from everything that happened, and then I did watch Golden Bachelor.
Okay, so what are we thinking about Gary and Teresa's divorce?
I mean, I can't imagine being in a situation where you're so far along in life and you have to make the decision between someone that you love and it's so fresh, and then being around family, it's got to be hard. And I can respect both of them on wanting to not leave their family.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going on. I feel like I see tea flying around everywhere in that situation, so I don't really know, but it's sad, but looking back, like, that's a huge question that you have to answer.
Yeah, I just feel like it was such a conversation on the show when he was talking to the women about like moving states, and it kind of felt like that was his intention from the beginning to stay in Indiana, but then like who would want to move into his ex-wife's, late wife's, same house that he built with her? So there needs to be some compromise, even at 70. Like, I know that they were stuck in their ways. Let's say they didn't want to leave their family, but like if they really wanted to make it work and they were truly in love, they would have found a way to compromise. So I kind of think it just wasn't meant to be, and it's not about that stuff.
Yeah, who
That's
knows
my
at
take.
this point, but I just wish them all the best.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your journey on the show a little bit. Were you a Bachelor watcher, and like how did you get on Zach's season?
I remember the first season that I ever watched was Ali
Oh
Fedajowski's
wow, you go
season.
back. I watched Jake Pavelka's season, so the one Ali was on, that was my first season.
Oh, I remember one of the girls that lived in my grandma's neighborhood would invite me every Monday night, and we'd watch it with her mom. And I absolutely like fell in love with that season. I remember there was drama with this guy named Frank, right? I think he ended up like having a girlfriend or something.
Yeah, he had the girlfriend, but then another guy got a tattoo during that season, Casey, of Ali, or like something in reminiscence to their first dates. It was like so crazy. But Frank, he broke his leg or his foot, and he was hobbling out because he got exposed that he had his girlfriend. But it also might have been a fake injury to get sympathy to get a rose.
Oh my gosh!
It's one of those.
Yeah, great season. And then I don't think I watched until I don't remember the next season that I watched. Maybe Clayton. I don't know.
Oh, you took a break.
Before Clayton. Yeah. And
yeah,
then I took
you
a
were
break,
friends
and
with,
then I picked back up with like the Clayton, Rachel, Hannah, all of them. And then I kind of watched and then stopped watching around Matt James.
Okay. Yeah, because I know you were friends with Sarah, who was on Clayton's season.
Yes. Sarah's actually from Spartanburg, South Carolina as well. And I met Sarah through pageants, crazy enough.
Oh, you used to do pageants.
Yeah. So Sarah was Miss South Carolina teen before I was Miss South Carolina. And we both know Holly Julian from the Bachelor pad. And so Holly was the one who nominated both Sarah and I for the Bachelor.
It's always like a full circle thing where you get on. That's so much fun. I love the connections.
Yeah. And I feel like whenever people are trying to get on the Bachelor, they feel like they have to know these like crazy people. But really, anyone can get on. It just happened to be Holly that I knew and loved that nominated me, but you don't need a former Bachelor alum to get you on the show.
Yeah, that's true. I watched Holly on Bachelor Pad. Like, I remember all of that.
I do too. I remember like the makeout game that they had to play, and I just distinctly remember having that engraved in my head. But Holly is one of my favorite human beings I've ever had in my life. She's such a strong person, and I speak so highly of her. I go to her all the time with any advice that I need, and she's just such a sound person.
I love that. And she's still with Blake. So they're such an underrated couple because they were from Bachelor Pad. But do you ever think that because Bachelor in Paradise isn't coming back this year, right? That's the word on the street. We know you did that. We'll talk about it. But do you think if they did a Bachelor Pad, that would be a good idea to bring that show back instead of Paradise?
So Greer and I have had this conversation, and we differ on what we think. I think they should, because I feel like the Bachelor in Paradise is giving overshadowed by so many other dating shows that have elements of like surprise or twists and turns. And with Bachelor in Paradise, really the only surprise that you're getting is just a new person coming down on the beach, which we know that we've done that game a million times. But I think I mean I would love it if we had competition games on Bachelor in Paradise. I feel like that's the best way that you can get to know someone. I'm also really competitive. So I think having that element of kind of like Love Island where you have challenges and different things like that would be really cool. I don't know about the money part of it all, but I let's bring back the challenges. Come on. I think that's so fun, and it's so different than Bachelor and Bachelorette.
Yeah, I mean, you can win a challenge, get a rose. I love Bachelor Pad. I think that they should just completely redo that entire format. I think
Let's
that
all
would really
stream it
work
again. Yeah, get the
for
views
sure.
up.
I mean, you never know. Maybe something's in the works. It definitely was a surprise, I think, to a lot of fans that there was no Paradise this year. And I have to ask, what did you enjoy more, Paradise or Zach's season, if you had to redo one?
Um, well, I was on one much longer than the other, but honestly, I think Paradise because you go into Paradise already having friends there, and I'm a very shy person, so it takes me a while to show people my personality. I'm just like very reserved, very timid, and I
Mhm.
think it took me a while to kind of break through my shell with the girls. On The Bachelor, I was closest with Kaity and Kylee in the house, but really not with everyone else. But then coming into Bachelor in Paradise, you've already spent so much time with these girls outside of all of these cameras. And so you
Mhm.
come in and you get to experience dating with some of your best friends. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But I
Yeah.
do think it did get in the way. Like, we were so close friends as girls. Like, we never wanted to step on anybody's toes. So that does kind of throw a little twist and turn into it. But Paradise just was every day that I was there, I had every day until the day I left. I had a great day.
No, I want to talk about it because, and we'll circle back to Zach's season, but on
Yeah,
Paradise, you came in, you had a date card,
I
you were a
did.
late arrival, and you had eyes for Tanner. So you kind of went
Yeah.
right for Tanner. Were you, and then, but she was dating Kat at the time, and that was not a match, but they didn't know that yet. We just knew that as viewers. But like, what was that experience kind of coming in? And did you know what was going on?
So I kind of knew who was going on Paradise for the girls before filming ever started. And since I was a late arrival, I was home working. And after the first rose ceremony, Greer, obviously my roommate now, and then Kat Carter, who was
Mhm.
one of my good friends in college, got
Mm.
sent home. So I remember being at the nail salon, getting my nails done to go on Paradise. And I got a call from Kat, and she just gave me all the tea. So
Mhm.
I knew at that point who were in couples and then who was still on the beach. And then the only thing that I didn't know was who the new guys were. And so the new guys were Tanner and Tyler.
Mhm.
So at that point, I thought Kat was in a relationship with Brayden because that was the last thing that I heard from Kat. Things were going really well. And so when I went in on Paradise, I kind of didn't know who I really wanted to go for. I didn't have eyes truly on anyone. It wasn't until a couple of days before I kind of like went through the roster of all the guys. I found out through spoilers that Tanner and Tyler were the next two guys going in. And I was just like, okay, like I feel like Tanner's more my speed than any of the guys, just like physicality wise. I love that he works out and is into health and wellness and fitness. That's something that's
Mhm.
really important in my life. And so I was kind of like, you know what? You got one chance to do this. So let's just go all in. And I had no idea that he was even dating Kat. Well, until he told me. He told me that
Yeah.
him and Kat were getting to know each other. Didn't really know to the extent of what it was, but I had no idea because whenever I came back, I kind of like squished myself into Kylee and Mercedes. And then their eyes were just like huge, like bugs. And that's when they told me, "Did you know it was Kat's birthday?" And I was like, oh,
Uh,
no. I was like, no one told me this. And then I kind of had like a mini panic attack. And then, yeah, rest
yeah.
is history.
I mean, from your perspective, like if you heard that Tanner was a late arrival and that you heard Kat was with Brayden, you're coming in late. You're like, I should probably date a late arrival who,
Yeah,
isn't necessarily like who hasn't necessarily known another girl for so long, right? Like it's better odds for you
exactly.
because we've
Yeah,
seen people come in like the last hour, the last week, and it's just like it's not fair for them to actually have a chance to find love.
exactly. And I heard like whose connections were strong. So I heard that Kat and Brayden were strong. I heard that Jess and Blake were strong. And then obviously Aven and Kylee. And so I was like, okay, those are my friends. Like I'm not gonna touch those relationships. Like let's go after something that's like not as strong. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of where Tanner came into play in my mind.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out between the two of you, right? Like it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
fair
I
enough.
I know you are close friends with Kylie, so I don't want to overstep and ask, but like, is there any way that you've been there to support her through what she just went through with Aven, and like any advice that you've had for her in the whole situation?
Well, I feel like I couldn't give like much advice because it was a situation that I've never been through.
Mhm.
But also Kylee is truly like one of the strongest people that I know. She's got a lot of grit to her, which I feel like that's like could be a shocking quality that a lot of people wouldn't realize in her.
Mhm.
But just texting her, calling her, just keeping up with her. But also just like excited for her new life in San Diego and everything that
Mhm.
she's accomplishing, whether it be through like influencing or through nursing or through other creative endeavors. Like she's really just blossomed there. And so I've just been supportive, like as a friend in her life in general, regardless of the situation. But she's like such a tough cookie that she's handled it so well.
Yeah, for sure. I love like her podcast that she did, and I felt like she, really did a great job with like the way
Yeah.
she handled that. So, definitely interested to hear more if that develops any further.
Yeah.
But as far as Zach's season, so what was your thoughts when you found out he was the Bachelor? Were you like, oh my God, I'm so into him? And like when you met him, were you like, he's hot, like I want this? Like what was that kind of relationship like?
So Zach was never really on my radar when it came to like choosing men, not choosing men, but they always ask you like, who do you want to be the Bachelor? He
Mhm.
was never someone that came like out of my mouth, but I remember being like happy with the decision, and I was like, okay, like let's see how this goes. And then I remember seeing him whenever we pulled up in the limo, and the first thing I thought was like, oh my God, he's so tall. And then two, I was like, he's way hotter in person. So I was really excited night one just to get to know him, but it was like a good surprise because going in I was like kind of hesitant. I was like, do I like this guy? Do I not like this guy? Like let's just see where it goes.
Mhm. And you got eliminated week 3, right?
Week 4.
Week 4. Okay, so
Yeah,
did you
basically, it's
go
almost
on
week
so did
3.
you go on, like, 3 group dates? Like, you didn't have a one-on-one, but, like, what was kind of your experience on the show? What did you do?
Yeah. So I got to do 3 group dates. And then the first one was the Bad Bitch Energy group date with Lizzo, which is my
Mm,
favorite group date I've been on. Then it was the football group date, which my
mm.
team lost. And then
Aw.
the last one was the Bahamas like party.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember the Lizzo one. That was when Victoria Fuller came, Courtney Robertson, and Tajwan,
Yeah, I
and
was so
then
in my element. I'm
mhm,
a pageant girl, so like it was basically just a pageant. It was so
yeah,
much fun, and I killed it. And I was so mad that they didn't show anything that I really got to do on TV. But
mhm.
that was a really fun pageant
What did you
or
do?
really fun date.
What did you do on the stage?
um, so they had us do a runway walk, which I got to do my signature like little pageant spin, and then we had to like go up to him and basically seduce Zach or like
Mm,
dance on him or like get his attention. And so that was interesting. That was out of my element for sure. And
mhm.
then the last thing that we had to do was like give a little speech.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
fun. And the football thing just wasn't your thing, but did you try?
I tried so hard,
Mhm,
and I'm from the South, and it's so hard for me to understand what's going on in football and to like actually be able to enjoy watching it. And to this day, I've enjoyed football after playing a football game.
mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I got so competitive. I really put my heart on the field. I got tackled so many times. I also tackled so many people.
Mhm.
But yeah, we had a couple of injuries, a couple of
It
fake
happens.
injuries. I'm not going to name names.
Oh my god, there's a fake
Greer,
injury every season when there's
Greer.
Greer, we
So
see
she
you.
was she was injured, but I
Yeah.
don't
We see
know.
you, Greer. We see you.
So we
So
see you.
as you're there on these group dates and you're in the house about, almost halfway through the process, you leave the show, you get eliminated. Did you get the closure you needed? Like, were you surprised when he sent you home?
I was surprised when he sent me home just because our last conversation, he kind of reassured me, told me he wanted me there, like wanted to explore a connection. He's like, I don't know where it's gonna go, but like I want to like see where it could go. And then we kissed. So in my head, I thought that that was reassurance. But even
Mhm.
going into the rose ceremony, I knew I was going home. Like that's just something that you feel in your boat. Like you can just feel it in
Got
your
it.
gut. And so I kind of knew it was happening. I was still shocked because I was holding on to those words. But
Mm,
all of Zach's actions, like leading up to that point, like who else would have gone home? Like I really didn't get to talk to him. We haven't built any connection. He knew nothing about me,
mm,
and it just felt awkward. And so Yeah,
It was
I was
time.
pretty prepared to go home. I didn't want to, and I do feel like we could have had a really good connection. Don't think it would have made it to the end at
Yeah,
all. But yeah, I'm like really disappointed in how it laid out because I actually had really high hopes after having like one or two conversations with him.
for sure. Yeah, that's always disappointing when it kind of feels like it's time. But then I also feel like, no shade, but like if Zach really wanted to, like, he is going to go out of his way to pursue certain people and like he can only be interested in
Yeah,
so many people. So after a while, it's like if it's not going to get there,
it's not gonna
just,
get it. Yeah,
yeah.
he's
So when
gonna
you,
talk to who he wants to talk to at the end of the day. Like
yeah,
that goes without question.
yeah, but you're
So
literally a catch. You are so beautiful, and I've always thought this, and I think you're underrated in Bachelor Nation. So for
well,
real,
thank you.
you're
Yeah.
welcome.
It's like
But
it's really disappointing to just like put yourself out there every single time and like you never feel like you make any progress. So that honestly means a lot.
oh, I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. I got you, girl.
No.
And when you left the show, who did you think that he was gonna pick? Like before you talked to anybody, like what was your gut saying?
Oh, Katie for sure.
Okay.
Like also Katie, like during filming and still to this day, was my best friend on the show.
Okay.
I remember night one, um, you know, Katie and I just like were sitting together, we were chit chatting, and she came over and she sat next to me, and I was just like, my pageant mom came out. I was like, oh my god, honey, I was like, you have some like your lipstick is like, messed up, and then she just like looks at me and blushes, and she was like, we kissed, and I was like, oh my gosh, how did it go? And for some reason, every other girl in the house that I heard had kissed Zach or had intimate moments. It made me really uncomfortable. But Katie and Kylee were the only two girls that it didn't. So I really wanted to support them and hear everything. And the
Mm.
first thing that she told me was, it felt like home. And I
Aw.
knew when she said that she actually meant it. And from that day on, like I really just became like, obviously I was trying to grow my relationship with Zach, but I
Yeah.
just felt like I was Katie's biggest supporter. And I was so happy for her when she got her one-on-one. I was like the first person that talked to her after her overnight dates. Like, and I could just tell by the way that she talked about him that that was the right connection. And Zach would do like little things to make Katie feel special. He brought her poutine once,
Mm.
and just like kind of went out of his way for her that he didn't do with other girls. But like as he should, that's his fiance now.
Yeah,
But you could just kind of tell that they really had something special,
for
and it
sure.
didn't take a lot of effort for them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I knew it
they're
all
still
along.
together and like they're, in a house together in Austin.
Yeah,
I'm actually like starting to like really come around. Like I can't say I was the biggest fan not that I was a hater, but like now I'm like kind of like into them. Like I'm starting to
you
follow
should
Katie
be.
more. And I know I always thought like Zach was just like I just wasn't a fan of him as the Bachelor. Like compared
Yeah.
to so many others, like I've had so many favorites. I like fell in love with Joey. Like Zach was just like, ugh,
They're
I don't
precious.
know.
I got to go visit Zach and Katie in January, and the night I stayed at their house, and it was me, Zach, Gabby, and Ariel, and
Mm,
we all had a movie night together. And
yeah.
they're just like, I don't see Zach as the Bachelor anymore. I see Zach as Katie's fiance.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, shout out Zach. We have the same name. I feel like it was really cool to see all the girls rally around Katie too, like all the way to the end with Gabby like pulling through to, let her have her moment. It's great that there's like all this new love in Bachelor Nation. The last three couples, Charity and Dotton, Joey and Kelsey, Zach and Katie,
Yeah.
they're all in Hawaii right now. So
hmm
Bachelor Nation is working. So the question is, would you ever go back?
I'm going to be really honest. I don't know if the type of person that I'm looking for is the type of person that would go on a reality television show.
That's fair.
So I think I could be tempted if I truly had nothing else going on, and the dating scene in New York, if it continues the way that it is right now, I
It's that bad.
might. But there's just something that like I just really don't think my person's going to be on TV.
Mhm.
But also never say never.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to catch up with you on what's going on in your life before we head out of here. What do you do for work? Like, what is going on? What's your weekly schedule? Like, what is the vibes?
So I work for a holistic health and wellness startup company, and I'm their brand and marketing, or their brand marketing and social manager. And
Okay.
so I work from home roughly 3 days a week, and then I'm in office 2 days a week. And I love my job. I work with some phenomenal women. My team is all females. It's a female founded company, and they all have like side hustles. So they're really passionate women. And so during the day, I'm, coming up with content creation ideas, creating email marketing strategies, doing paid digital media, creating like campaigns for
Mhm.
product launches. And so I am obsessed with my job. It's a really small team, so I still get to have a lot of impact.
Mhm.
And it's really just been like the biggest blessing since moving to New York is having that job. So I'm going to shout out my company. They're called Within. If
Do
you
it.
like bougie health and wellness, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, cupping, they have acupuncture and cupping studios in New York, one in Williamsburg, and one in Flatiron. And then they have a whole range of traditional Chinese medicine backed products
Mm.
in their e-commerce store. But yeah, a lot of bougie beauty tools too. So I love them.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, I'm glad to see that you're loving your job and that you're loving the new city and that life is going great for you. I've always loved you and your energy. So I'm so glad that you were able to come on the podcast and do this. We do need to find you a man. So when I come to New York next
Please.
month, we're going out with Greer too. Let's hit the
Yes.
town. Thank you so much for being here. Where can everybody follow you on Instagram, on TikTok? Give them the tea.
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I have the same username, Davia Esther.
Perfect. Well, I'll leave it in the link down below. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you all so much for listening. If you guys are watching, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. If you're listening as a podcast, rate and review. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.